I'm Zilette.
And I'm Xavier.
And we're the Pattersons. Welcome to our first episode of Quest for Kids,
where we discuss things that interest and inspire kids. And girls.
Anyway, we would like to give a shout out to our sponsor, Quest Learning Online. Today, our guest is Bella Dublé.
Hi!
Today we will be discussing reading, of how we feel about reading, I guess. So, how do you feel about reading?
I think it's a great way that you can learn and enjoy yourself at the same time. You can expand your vocabulary, and you get to kind of like leave where you are in the present moment, kind of like escape from life and logic, and you can let your imagination run wild and go different places.
Pretty neat. Xavier, what about you?
I love reading because you can use your imagination, and I like reading because it gives you a story, and you get to like make up where, like, what if it's at a city, you can make up what the buildings look like, and if there's a square building, you can make up what that looks like. Like, it could be crooked, it could be really tall, it could be curvy. That's why I love reading.
Cool, because of buildings.
Well, Soleil, why do you like reading?
Well, I love reading because it just puts you in this imaginary place, and you can think of whatever you want and just make this whole story of your own, but like reading off a book. It's almost like watching a movie, but with your eyes, but reading words. And it just takes you away from all of the stress and work you have. So we all brought books of our own. Xavier, why don't you start first?
So this is Five Kingdoms Sky Raiders. It is the first book in a series of 5. And what it's about it's about this kid named Cole Randolph. On Halloween he gets kidnapped, basically, and goes to this other world. And it's basically a journey of him and his friends journeying through this world and trying to get back home. What I like about this book is it's just you can put your imagination to use, and it's action filled. It's a really interesting story, and that's why I like it. I don't know if there's really anything I don't like about it. I would recommend it to my friends, yes. I would be willing to read it more than once.
This is actually a book called Keeper of the Lost Cities. It's actually the 4th book of the series, but what this is about is this girl named Sophie Foster, and she's always kind of been like a really huge misfit in her world. She's super smart, and she just tries to not make it seem like she doesn't exist. She always hears these people, and it turns out she's a telepath. And she hears everyone's thoughts, and then an elf meets her and brings her to his world, and she has a bunch of adventures with her friends and almost dies more than once.
Oh, wow.
But I love this book because it's just adventure-packed, so suspenseful, but it also shows like how close you can be and how relationships will hold in tough times, and like trust is one of the biggest keys in friendship and stuff like that. I would definitely recommend this book to people who like a little bit of drama and a lot of mystery and action. And I've read this book like 5 times over, along with every other book in the series. So yeah.
Well, my book is called Unwanted. It is the first book it's a series, it's the first book of 3 books. It's pretty much about this place called Quill. and everyone's very just like monotonish, and there's the necessaries and the wanteds and the unwanteds. The necessaries are like the poor people, and the wanteds are like the higher people who are going to be strong, and the unwanteds, they pretty much kill off. They eliminate them. So there's this thing called the purge, and all the 13-year-olds get, called as a necessary, a wanted, or an unwanted. And in this book, Alex Stowe and Aaron Stowe are identical twins, and Aaron is called to be a wanted, and Alex is called to be an unwanted. And he goes to the death farm, is what they call it, and then he realizes that it is an actual death farm. It's just a magical place to keep all of the unwanted safe from Quill. And he loves this place. All of the unwanteds do. They're like thousands of unwanteds there from over the years of the purge. And he pretty much loves it, but then he starts falling behind, but he's actually really special. But he starts missing his identical twin Aaron, and he's wondering if his identical twin wonders like if he likes him, meaning like misses him and actually liked him as a brother. So it's a really good book, and he eventually gets reunited with his brother. What I like about this book is it has so much action and mystery and fantasy. I love magical and fantasy stuff and action, definitely mysteries. I just love, I guess, how this book is kind of unique. It's kind of written in a certain way that I just think is very different. I actually just love everything about this book. I didn't really dislike anything about it. At first, I guess I could say there was one thing. At first, it was a bit hard to read just because it was the introduction, and the introduction was very long. And it just took me a while to kind of read through it because I guess you could say it was boring a bit. Yeah, it was very, very slow. I would definitely recommend this to a lot of my friends though, especially the ones who read books and like mystery and action. Definitely, it has a lot of action and mystery in this, especially magical creatures.
I think some advice that I would give to my friends that don't like to read as much would be, well, first of all, just give it a chance. Like you should never judge a book by its cover. I know a lot of people now are obsessed with social media, video games, all this stuff, and they're like, oh, books are so lame, it's for losers and nerds. But if you just have someone give it a chance, maybe not a book this thick, but yeah.
Some advice I would give my friends is like they need to just kind of exactly what Bella said, give it a chance, because they may actually find something that they really like in a book. And it really helps with your vocabulary and how you read, and maybe can help you later on in life.
When I first saw the cover of this book, I thought maybe it probably wouldn't be very interesting. But now that I've read the book, it has come to be my favorite book in the whole wide world. My favorite one of the books that I have read. So I would give advice to the people that don't like to read. A book is kind of like a show or a movie, but it lets you use your imagination. And it's not just words, it's actually a story.
So Bella, have you always liked to read, or is it something that you've grown to love?
I have not, sadly, always loved to read. I have grown to love it, yes, but when I was younger, I started reading in first, second grade a lot. Because my mom, she kind of forced me to read, and I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't even have time now as it is. And, I was dumb. But she just gave me this book. She's like, here, try it. It was called Mandy. It was just, for me, I thought it was great because it's kind of how I became in love with mystery, especially because it was so suspenseful all the time. And I just read it, and I was like, Mom, how many books are in this series? And she said, there's 40. And I felt like partying because I got to read 40 books of, starting with one book that I really loved, and that's how I came to love it.
Same thing with you.
I haven't really, I've always liked books, really, but when I was younger, I didn't really read them as much. But once I read this book, I was like, books are awesome, and I started reading more books.
Honestly, the very first when I first started to love books, because before I hated to read, honestly. I wouldn't say hate, but I tried to love it, but I didn't really like it. I was in 2nd grade, and I read the Junie B series, and I loved the Junie B books. And those just, I guess, helped me fall in love with reading.
Soleil, are you required to read?
Not really. Before I was, but in school I am required to read like To Kill a Mockingbird, those books. But I kind of, before I was with my parents to help me kind of love reading, and that definitely helped. So, not now, no. Are you required to read?
For school, yes, I actually am required to read 3 hours a week, but I usually read way more than that because I just like reading for fun. But yeah, reading is awesome.
Pretty cool.
It is. You? In 3rd and 4th grade, I was required to read for 20 to 30 minutes a day, and then write it down, have my parents sign it, and then I'd have a little book, and I had to write a summary of each time I read. And now I'm not required to read. In 1st grade I was, to help me love books more, but I do it more by choice, and I read so much now that my parents are like, Bella, stop reading, play with your sisters, or Bella, stop reading, hey, help me with the dishes, or something like that. Around people, my parents do have to keep me from reading because they want me to interact with people instead of imagining fake characters interact with other fake characters. So like, I know you've been doing acting for like 6 or 7 years. How do you apply your reading, your everyday reading, into your acting?
Well, how I apply my reading into my acting is, well, books help you imagine things, very much so. So when you imagine things in acting, you have to imagine things all of the time. You have to put yourself in that character. And just reading books, I imagine things so vividly that sometimes I actually think that I'm watching it and like seeing the story. If I can just see the story, then it's the same exact thing with acting.
Cool. I know that some of my friends they always tease me and make fun of me for reading so much because I actually asked for books for Christmas. So they're like, oh, Bella asked for books for Christmas. Why in the world did you do that? Ask for an Xbox or something. My friend Julian, he hates reading so much. I asked him, well, what do you like in everyday life? Of course, most boys are into sports. So he says football. And we find him a book, and he reads facts, and he's like, oh yeah, reading's cool.
If you're stressed and overwhelmed with anything, books can really help you because it just kind of takes you out of all of that mess and puts you in an imaginary story of books that's so cool. So I think reading is cool too.
If you're bored, if you don't have anything to do, just find a book. You could buy a book if you want to. Find a book, start reading it, and if you like it, find more. You should probably find more books like it. Maybe even try something new and find a different book that's totally different. But if you're bored, if you don't have anything to do, even if you're not and you just want to read, you should read. Reading is awesome.
Hey Luna, what you doing? What you doing, Luna? You have a book? Aw. Is that Barney? Yeah? Guys, she's only 2 and she's already reading. Just like, look at that.
Start early.
Be like her.
Be like Luna, the 2-year-old.
Reading.
Awesome.
Do you like this book?
No.